Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin, Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I think we're coming into this year with a new confidence.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Well, I got a text this morning from a high school football coach in the state of Texas, and he sends me a link of the TexAgs article of Colin Klein, going to become the new Texas A&M offensive coordinator. And his response, or after the link, is one of the most innovative cats in the entire game. How about that? It's TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. I'm David Nuño. He's Olin Buchanan. And at some point, that chair will be filled by our executive editor, co-owner, Billy Lucci, who's got the latest intel. He's coming here to TexAgs Radio to talk all about it. But we'll start things off with Mr. Buchanan. I think it's the first time I've ever called you Mr. Buchanan.
Yeah, I've been called worse.
It's a compliment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Look, I'm not going to try to act like I know something I don't. I didn't watch a whole lot of Kansas State, and what I did see was typically highlights, right?
Yep.
But they were ranked, I believe, 10th in the nation in scoring last year.
35 points a game. Do you like that?
I like that.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And
432 yards of offense a game. Well, I'm sorry, 446 in 2023.
And who's the star offensive player for Kansas State?
2 years ago when they won the Big 12, it was Deuce Vaughn.
No, but who is it this year?
No, I don't know. They got a bunch of guys.
So they lost Deuce Vaughn. What was that, 2 years ago or last year? Because Deuce Vaughn is a rookie for the Cowboys.
So I'm saying 2 seasons ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they lose their best player and most explosive player, and they come back and are 10th in the country in scoring.
Yep.
So sounds to me like the guy knows what he's doing.
From all indications and from watching K-State, balanced offense. And people say that out loud like, oh, another balance. It's not the same thing, guys. Like, when you have a defensive-minded head coach, I think a balanced offense that scores 35 points a game, or as it says there, 37.8, we'll take that.
Well, I'm looking at their scores right now, and I'm seeing, 45-42, 27 loss to Missouri. You remember that game?
Yep.
44, 21 to Oklahoma State, 38, 41, 41, 30, 59, 31, and then 35. They lost some game. They lost a game where they scored 35 points. A productive offense. Like I said, I can't think of, who's the offensive player that stands out. And I guess what I'm going with that is it looks like he's one of these guys that can do more with less.
Yep.
Now, I'm not going to go out and say, okay, this is going to be the answer to all of A&M's.
No.
He may be. But as we've learned, just what we've been saying before, just show me,
Show me, but look, I'm intrigued by it.
I understand the hire when you look at what they've done offensively.
I don't know if irony is the right word here, but just considering he was a finalist and expected by some to win the Heisman Trophy.
And then came the Baylor game.
And
here comes
this, bearing
Lucci.
gifts.
Yeah.
Billy Lucci bearing gifts.
TexAgs football.
TexAgs football number 2.
Number 2.
Okay. Those of you watching on the YouTube page or on the CW. Okay. It's such a nice looking ball. I want to keep it in the plastic.
In a little bit, OB. I don't want to be crowding you. You got a haircut.
A week ago.
I've seen it. I just haven't seen him.
Good morning, Billy.
Good morning. I came bearing gifts like Santa over. I don't know which one to be up here. Maybe both.
The white
is a
little white on camera.
It is? Okay, yeah.
But maybe that's just that TV. We can let the people on YouTube and TexAgs.com decide.
These are courtesy of my good friend Pan Lucas over at Big Game Footballs. There you
Those
go.
beauties.
There's the.
I think those would good sell off the rack.
Yeah, they would. They really would. We might need to consult with them, start a new thing. I mean, imagine that thing. An A&M fan gets one of those, and they get it signed by,
Billy Lucci,
Mike Elko, or Colin Klein. That's a segue, but I'm not ready to segue yet. But anyway, those are nice.
Hey,
if
we could start a new thing.
It's a real.
Yeah, that's a real deal.
I'm not gonna throw it. I don't want to do that. We could start a new thing like they do on other shows where people come in and they sign the brick, they sign the football every time we get a big guest in studio.
I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a helmet right there that Gabe did that on for like 6 years.
Okay, then I'm out. I've changed my mind.
I mean, it's a pretty legendary helmet if you ever go look at some of the signatures on it. But yeah, that was that.
Yeah, good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Very good idea. Well, you don't want to segue. What?
No, thank you. I was like, what are you looking at, OB?
Looking at
it was like you're weirding me out.
Hey, you told me a long time ago to fix your collar. You have a little collar situation happening. Let's make sure we fix it.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, you're
welcome.
welcome.
In fact,
Bonzi.
We're going to go ahead and break this bad boy out. It's new.
By the way, if you want to be part of the conversation.
Of Pan's wife, Ashley Holland Lucas. She's not a hyphen, though, just Lucas. But in case you guys want to know, that's Lululemon. In case Lulu wants to sponsor me, there it is.
Really?
A lot of people are going to buy this now. It comes in maroon as well. I have that.
Oh, interesting. Where do you want to start? Because you said you weren't ready to go to the Colin Klein direction. Where would you like to start?
No, I was.
Okay.
I was saying I wasn't done. I wasn't ready for a quick segue. Had a little more early morning rambling to do. I want to ask OB, what do you think, Colin Klein? So first of all, not signed contract. We've seen this, in sports too much, but he accepted the job. How about Matt Musil, your boy?
Matt Musil.
Channel 11 coming in over everybody's head yesterday. He's a Kansas State guy. I had no idea.
Kansas State guy, yeah. He's a legend in Houston, been a sports anchor for 40 years.
Absolutely. I mean, I said that the other day. I said, I think he called, and this is funny because it was my first and only varsity touchdown was because I was tight end in a wing tee, which good thing Colin Klein's not going to be running that.
Is your blocker with an 8 number?
Yeah, and I was 180 pounds. But I think him and Giff Nielsen covered that game.
Oh, is that right?
That's how long ago it was. Was he Channel 11?
Gifford Nielsen. He was the sports director. Matt was the number 2.
So anyway, when he put that out yesterday, that was one of the 2 names that I had as that's who it was coming down to. And I really like, and I really like the Colin Klein hire heading into it. Now I was sitting there thinking of recruits and what a guy like Connor Wigman could do in this offense, what a guy like Marcel Reed could do, Jalen Henderson with the way this dual threat and what they're doing, not only especially running the football in terms of you look at that K-State offense but also throwing it. And this is a guy that's done. They take shots down the field.
Yep.
You can see the leveling of the passing concepts, but to watch this group won the Big 12 last year at Kansas State. Again, I don't think people quite understand what they're working with there versus a place like this.
It's not Bill Snyder's Kansas State.
I know they had
team.
Staley. Yeah, it's not Bill, and that's what made Bill Snyder such a legend. Was he was the one that recruited, did get that amount of talent. They developed the talent now like no other. But he wins the Big 12 last year. How old is he?
Well, he's probably about Johnny's age, maybe a couple years older.
I think he's 33.
Yeah. Really young, considered very innovative. And like I said, they won the Big 12 last year. They fielded a top 25 offense this year. It feels like they kind of have battled with is it Will Howard that's been he's transferring now, but he's in and out with injuries the last couple of years. So when you watch them, when they're on, and I've watched them carve up Texas. The Longhorn fans are 0-4. I watched what they did in Austin the last 3 quarters of that football game. They were cutting up a defense full of NFL guys and 5 stars, carving them up to shreds in front of 100,000. They did that to OU, I think maybe it's the last couple years. So no, I think this K-State offense and what Colin Klein was doing up there, and then you try to translate it to what could happen here. It's really exciting.
Well, he fits the profile of what people want. Young, up and coming, innovative. You didn't hear it, but I had a coach text me like, "This guy is an innovative cat that you're getting. Like he will use." And
that word keeps coming around. And I like that.
And he balance, but balance with a purpose, right? Not just balance to be balanced to run the ball. Like he does mix it up quite a bit. I'm excited. By the way, it's not the only hire, but it's the first big. It's the coordinator position. It's the big one.
Yep. Zane, by the way, just texted Jake Johnson to the portal.
Okay.
To interrupt our OC thing, but
probably on his way to North Carolina.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And that was kind of the thought from the jump. And good, he was a solid tight end here.
Yep.
Go play with your brother. Yeah, no hard feelings there. They were 2 great representatives of A&M while they were here, and first class family all the way. So I'll be rooting for. That makes me like Carolina a little more. I like Mac. I like their uniforms.
Great stadium. I don't know if you've ever been there.
I've never been.
Great stadium. Beautiful.
Oh, and again, like here's the deal. We're breaking down a hire that I'm saying it's not a sign thing, and it broke out this morning. I've said it. We've seen this, like I said, a million times. You got to sign it, get it across the finish line. But that name's out there now. Out there as having accepted the job. So let's talk about it.
Well, like I was saying before you came on, I'm not going to lie and act like I'm an expert on Kansas State. I probably only saw some highlights of them this year. But I do know, like you said, they won the Big 12 last year. I watched that, and that was an explosive offensive team. Part of that was because they had Deuce Vaughn. But even if you look at Deuce Vaughn, even if you say Deuce Vaughn, I mean, we're not talking about a guy that's a great pro. That's a difference-making pro. And this year, I was saying, who can you name from their offense other than Will Howard, the quarterback? And even then, you got to be really dialed in to know Will Howard. And yet they're scoring, almost 35 points a game.
And they had that true freshman quarterback come in that was pretty magical after Will Howard.
And what's his name?
I forget his name.
So yes,
but it's true. But it's a true freshman. He's a true freshman. I'll say this: K-State's fighting, to keep him, and they've been fighting for a couple days. It didn't first get out with Musil's. In other words, Kansas State didn't find out from Musil's report yesterday. We had some locals texting that there was a local Kansas State guy that knew about it, and this is something I think that name came across my desk when I start writing, that I love the names, and his was one of them. Sunday, maybe? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sunday. It was Sunday after our podcast, Olin. But so K-State's known. They've been fighting it, so that's why I don't expect them, to win that battle, because it's not something that just happened and wait, don't leave. We got our this has been ongoing for a couple days. But they are devastated up in Manhattan. And that's important.
One of their own.
It is, yeah.
It's just going to show what a great opportunity you have here.
That's true. That is very true. And also, I think it speaks a lot, Mike Elko, and probably the conversations they've had, and how he goes about hiring. This is him. He's doing it. It's not. I mean, obviously, it has to run through agents at some point, the contract stuff. But he's
running point,
making the initial call. He's running point, center, power forward, shooting guard. It doesn't matter. If it's Buzz's offense, he's playing all 5 positions. He's doing it himself while he's recruiting, while he's trying to manage the portal, while he's putting together the rest of his staff. The good news is, I don't know if I've seen it reported yet, but all those guys we've named, other than I named the tight ends coach and Trooper Taylor, who I expect both of them to come, all those other guys are here. Ish, the offensive line coach, Cushing, they're all here. They're across the street working. The entire recruiting staff. So he's got the reinforcements have arrived. He's not fighting, this multi-front battle by himself anymore. But he's hiring coaches and he's hiring his coordinators. And from first contact till a deal is done, he's in the middle of it. It's not Jimmy Sexton, get us somebody, give us some names, we'll pick one, pass it on. Eventually he'll talk to the coach. And I've seen that with a couple times, in coaching. Kevin Sumlin didn't do that as much. I think he made a mistake and did that with Christensen, and that cost him pretty dearly. But that was a lot of the way Jimbo went about hires. This is face-to-face. This is, wire-to-wire from the head guy. And I think that matters a great deal. But K-State's been trying to hang on, and they are livid. They are over the moon, pissed off about it and upset. And guess what? Not pissed at him, but just upset. Seth sent me a text message from someone that works up there that was, let's just say, not happy to lose him. The reason I'm saying all this is you remember when A&M hired John Chavis?
I do.
And I was up there right with everybody leading the charge. He was an ace D coordinator. You know what everybody at LSU kept saying? Take him. Y'all can have him. Same thing happens in recruiting sometimes. You know what we said to LSU when they took a guy out of the portal and took some kind of victory lap and thought they got one over on him? We said, you can have him. And look what's happened. Listen to the people. What did Florida State say about Jimbo? They didn't say you could have him, but they told you a lot,
They were
and
like,
we didn't listen.
You'll see. It was more like, you'll see.
Yeah, and so I'm just saying the reaction up there in Manhattan's a lot different right now.
Let me read this chip on the YouTube page. Speaking of Kansas State's in the red zone, 5th in red zone attempt, 4th in rushing touchdowns in the red zone, 5th in passing, 90%. They score when they hit the red zone. How about that? A red zone offense that scores touchdowns.
If he can do the same things here at Kansas State, and I don't think it's going out on a limb to say he's going to have access to more talent. You might say, yeah, but he's going to be playing stronger defenses. Okay. But if he can have any of the success that he had at Kansas State, then you could see A&M make a remarkable rebound. Because I still think the problem for A&M this year was as basic as just poor offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Poor offensive scheme.
Sure.
Not necessarily players, but offensive scheme.
What does it say that Penn State tried to get this dude?
Yeah.
Notre Dame tried to get this dude. A&M gets this dude.
One of the A&M is going to get one of the hottest young names in college coaching. That's what it says. That's what he is. Like you said, Penn State, that's a hard one to turn down, right? Nittany Lions and coming. What about Notre Dame? How many people turned down Notre Dame? Not a lot. And
he's hired by the guy that left Notre Dame.
Yeah,
for
A&M.
For A&M. So, but you're right. I mean, there's some heavy hitters.
Yep.
And A&M outslugged them for this one.
The Asian persuasion says Optimus Klein. That means nothing to you probably, but to Billy it means something.
What does it mean to you?
It's from the Transformers.
Oh, wow.
Hey,
yes!
I've got, my kid was like.
That was when we were
kids. Probably.
He was playing with them.
But we'll say, hopefully he'll transform that A&M
I was going to make a
offense.
Megan Fox comment.
I know her too.
Yeah.
Familiar with her work?
On Transformers.
What about Jennifer 8? Was that a movie?
Was she?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
It's really weird. You should watch it with Irma.
Billy, you have never been in studio during when we just kind of talk about meat dessert. So
are we about to do that?
No, we are.
Okay. I'm gonna watch.
Okay. Obi, I was there yesterday.
Were you? How was it?
It was phenomenal. You know what I had?
What'd you have?
If you were to guess on a Tuesday, what do you think I had?
Rib tips.
I did have rib tips.
What'd you think?
Oh, phenomenal.
Yeah, they're life changing.
crispy. Some of them were crispy. Some were super soft. It was like a good combination.
Yeah.
Delicious. Belinda was like, how's my
I love
OB?
Fargo's, but I'm out. I can't sit beside y'all while y'all do this. I feel like I'm party to it.
We call it Fargo's Hub. Continue on, please.
It's like when you eat those, it's like this explosion of meat flavor.
I heard that, Olin.
It's an explosion of meat flavor.
Just pops out.
Yeah.
Just happiness,
It's
right?
amazing.
It is amazing.
But, like I said, the last time I went to get some, I couldn't get any because I got there late. So I had the chopped beef sandwich, which I loved.
That's why you got to get there early.
That is why you got to get there early.
I was in there, and there was a table sitting, and I was getting ready to leave, and they go, Nuño, you didn't bring OB? And I was like, no, I didn't. I said I couldn't bring him this one. This was a meeting I was having. He goes, we came because we heard. We heard that you guys were coming. So it's the place.
I hope they all got rib tips.
They better have. If it was on their table when I went up there, I would have taken it when they weren't looking. That's a fact.
Well, they're really good. But again, they got a lot of stuff that's good. That's what they have on Tuesdays and Saturdays. But today being Wednesday, I think today you can get that chopped beef on a baked potato.
Que rico. I had a baked potato yesterday. I had nothing on it. It was just a potato, but it was really good.
Yeah, I'd probably prefer it with chopped beef on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was doing the rib tips on the side. 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan, without a doubt. The what?
The best barbecue in Texas, i.e. the world.
That's their trademark. You know why?
Because it's true.
It's Fargo's. And we're back, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. I thought this was a pretty nice text. If you want to be part of the conversation, you can text us 979-693-1150. If you do call us, we'll pick it up on the Brian Foley Law hotline. And by the way, good people can have a bad day. Call Brian Foley Law, 936-596-0407, serving Houston, the Woodlands, Conroe, and the Brazos Valley. I really like this text message. Let's see if I can find it. Hopefully he's Optimus Klein and not Calvin Klein. That's from K-Rock in College Station.
Optimus Klein. Well, there's some optimism, right? And with him, he's the numbers. The numbers are excellent. The numbers make you say, okay, I can understand why he's making this higher and everything. But like Billy alluded to, we were all excited at one time about John Chavis. It didn't work out. So I'm taking the approach that, I'm going to be. I love the fact that he put up some huge numbers here.
Yeah. Billy, I'm going to read a tweet that you posted.
Read it.
Yeah, I'm ready.
It was early. I don't remember.
Yeah, and sometimes I worry, like when news is out there, I assume you're awake, but I didn't know, so I was.
Man, I listen. I went to bed. I got up early today. It was like 7, but that's early for. I mean, it's early for, I think, even normal people. Some, not everybody, not my dad or you guys, but when do you get up, OB?
5:00.
Why?
I don't know whether I want to or not.
Oh, you're like the birds.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like the birds that chirp outside my window and say it's morning.
unless Irma gives me medicine.
I have nothing to add to
what
the
kind of medicine is Irma giving you?
Sometimes she gives me this medicine. So this is going to help you with this.
You don't ask questions? You just take it?
I've seen videos of that.
Yeah.
Like the wife puts stuff in the coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Cyanide, just a little bit over time.
That's probably coming. She's probably working on it. But no, she takes care of me.
Billy Lucci tweeted 56 minutes ago, I stated yesterday I expect the OC hire to be done quickly, perhaps by the end of the day. The Aggies' defensive coordinator spot is up next, and I'm hearing Elko is very close there as well. I don't know how much you can expand on that, but maybe a little bit on how the process has gone. Very similar to OC, I assume. Elko's making the calls himself.
I think this one might even be a little more specific than the OC one was, just kind of the way I've gathered the info. Like, I think this might be a guy, very attainable. And I don't mean that as a negative. I think they'd get him. And I think if that's the one, if he's the guy that Elko tabs, I think he could have that one wrapped up. We could be doing this again tomorrow, talking about a defensive coordinator. I'm not guaranteeing that one. I felt a lot more confident about the offensive one dropping pretty quickly. Defensively, though, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all if that one happened. I think what he's got to do is get the Klein across the finish line, and to me, I'm sure that's in the process of happening now, and then I think he could turn his full attention. But it's been really impressive. And look, I guess we'll talk more about like portal stuff, and there's a lot that's going to be going on there, in and out. But getting guys getting his staff over here, making a hire like a Colin Klein, like we've gotten a few interesting texts this morning from Bronny and Howell have from recruits. There's some quarterbacks in this state that are really excited about that hire.
Really?
Let's put it that way. When that happens, then the receivers soon follow. Like, I think Connor Wigman's pretty excited about this hire. And then how does that trickle over? You got to start. To me, you threw Elko in there with the portal stuff, and you throw them in, and it's like, man, the ship's taken on water. And it would have anyway had Jimbo stayed. And that's the thing. I mean, Elijah leaving was a big hit. And who saw his best friend getting the Syracuse head job? I mean, that stinks because you were paying him enough that you weren't going to lose him to a position coach job. And then the fact that his best friend for a long, long time gets the job. That was the hit. So, that's what you're looking at with Walter Nolan. That's where the D line and you're taking on water as soon as you get here, and you've got to figure out a way to stem the tide and start to get positive momentum going. The portal, you're still very early in terms of guys coming in because they're going to take visits and stuff, but going out, it starts immediately. And when one guy like Walter Nolan puts out a graphic saying he intends to go in the portal, everybody, and you combine that with, that's the reaction to Elijah Robinson leaving, you start to get all this negative energy, and it sucks for a new coach. Brian Kelly dealt with that.
Yeah, he did.
At LSU. So bad, I said the other day, that he started speaking other languages, changing his accent and crap. So it's tough. And then, oh, by the way, you have to recruit. Oh, by the way, you have to go see the high school coaches. Oh, by the way, you have to hire your staff. Oh, by the way, you have to, figure out, you have to go out to these dinners with these donors and the people that hired you. And so they need to start to reverse that momentum. And I think hiring an OC, hiring a DC, getting some of these coaches on staff, getting the help. Now I think the next step is get a couple of your big name players to publicly say, hey, I'm staying, I'm all in. And then also to get, I think, a couple guys coming in via the portal to show the fan base and show everybody, dude, this is a two-way street here. It's not a one-way.
So have I been sleeping and just completely missed the official announcement that DJ Durkin was no longer going to be the defensive coordinator?
Yeah, I don't expect that he'll retain.
But it hasn't been officially announced then?
No.
Okay, because I was thinking, did
it's
I
not
miss
like,
that?
I think the reason it happened with Bobby Petrino is, I believe, it's my understanding that Petrino walked in and said, hey, I need to know. And look, Petrino took his shot at Jimbo out the door up there at Arkansas, but by every account, both of those dudes, Petrino and even especially Durkin, have been absolute pros from the day they walked in here. And I didn't find one person, and I wasn't digging to find it, because not one person said anything except they were glowingly positive about Petrino's tenure here. It's very interesting with the reputation he had coming in. Not one person. So nothing against him, and I think he went in and handled it right and said, hey, I've got some opportunities here. I need to know. He would have stayed. I've got some opportunities here. I need to know. And, Elko said, yeah, I'm planning to move a different direction. And they figured out how that worked best for both parties in terms of, he had a big contract, like a 3-year deal that he'd signed through 1 year, and it worked out for everybody. I don't think that's been the case with Durkin, so I think he's sitting here coaching through the bowl game and being the pro that he is.
Let's hit a break here. When we come back, let's go through some of the other hires as well and just kind of break that down here on TexAgs Radio. Right now, we need caller number 1. We're going to give you a free car wash from our friends there at Aggie Land Express Car Wash in South College Station off of William D. Fitch in Greens Prairie. They're Aggie owned and operated with the friendliest staff and a personal touch. They offer a monthly membership. We'll give the first caller a free car wash right now from Aggie Land Express in South College Station, 979-693-1150. And we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon never looks so good with Maroon U. We got Billy Lucci in studio, Olin Buchanan. And guys, let's talk a little bit about some of the other hires. I think in the last 24 hours has been official. Ish taken back over at cornerbacks. You got Derek Miller, going to be the recruiting general manager, offensive line coach, Adam Cushing. And I think that's the one I'm most intrigued by. Maybe I'm intrigued by other, but like that's the biggest
I
need.
think for the impact of it, right? Where you can make maybe the biggest jump. And we saw Bryce Foster here yesterday. He seemed really excited about it. Just in talking to some of the young linemen, their initial reaction to it, they were, it's one conversation. They met with him and they came away really impressed. They want to be taught. They want to learn. I think maybe Adazio was a little less technique oriented and more kind of try to motivate a different way, more of a yeller negative reinforcement versus whatever. Like for some people it works, for some it doesn't. It's more of an old school approach that didn't seem to resonate with these guys because you talk to them around, they didn't hate him off the field. I just don't think they had a lot of confidence that they were becoming better offensive linemen. I think they had no confidence that was happening. And when that's going on, you've got a real problem. I think even right off the bat, they loved how it sounded, very technique oriented, and there's going to be a lot of coaching going on. He's got a great reputation, by the way. And again, you're seeing some of these, and I think the D coordinator hire will fit along this path too. Younger, but proven. Mm-hmm. Colin Klein, 2 years there, but younger, but proven, or have done it at a high level. He didn't do it for a long time, obviously, at that age, but young and proven. I'm joking with Seth right now because two of our most negative people, and I won't say who, but they're high school coaches, they're buddies of ours, good friends, and they are always like very critical of every hire, every, tenure. Yep. But they're honest. And when they get positive, it's few and far between, but when they do, you notice it. Both of them called and texted me this morning. I said, I don't even know how to handle this. 20 plus years of negativity from not one of y'all, but both of y'all. And they're over the moon excited about it. Not only Klein, but Elko. And again, we're joking around within our friend group, but these guys tell you when they think it sucks. They tell you when they think it's going in a bad direction. They tell you when it's underwhelming. So when they speak up in the other way, it carries a little more weight. And again, they're also carrying that excitement that Bronny, Howell, and I have all gotten in terms of feedback from high school coaches around the state. And that matters a ton, but it also just tells you, this is impressive. I had one of my guys say, look, the very first time Matt Rule took the job at Baylor, within a couple weeks, he was doing a free clinic in Conroe with his whole coaching staff there. And they said, just sitting down and listening to him, they said, wow, this guy's going to be really good. And they said they're getting the same vibes from Elko early. And again, it's early and people can be wrong and there's stumbling blocks and there's going to be pivotal moments along the way. But let's not overlook that your initial OC and DC hires, kind of pivotal moments, right? And like OB said, the time will tell. But as we sit here today, you want to feel like this about a hire when it's made.
Well, I would tell you, I got to say this. I'm pretty impressed with how active and efficient Mike Elko has been. He's been really active already in the transfer portal, offering guys, right? Mm-hmm. He's got at least 4 coaches hired. Mm-hmm.
Does it feel like it's the opposite of what we just had, even though people try to link them as the same way because he coached under Jimbo, but it feels different. Like Jimbo took his time with these hires often. He took his time with the transfer portal. It's like the high school coaches comment that he made at the press. Everything is a little bit opposite.
A lot opposite.
And I heard Broniger say he's been out meeting high school coaches and doing those things. So this guy's been, man, you hear the phrase, "I'm going to hit the ground running." He's sprinting.
Yeah.
I bet he hadn't been off the phone other than getting a few hours of sleep every night, and every second has probably that's look. A lot of coaches do that when they first take a job, but I've known him now for 6 years. That's what he's going to do, and he is hungry to be the head coach here at A&M, and I can promise you when it came out that it was going to be Mark Stoops, and it was trending that way. Probably, do you think TexAgs was disappointed with that? I don't think there was anyone that would have been more disappointed than Mike Elko. He really wants this job and this opportunity and wanted to be at this place, and he's putting not a lot on himself, but he wants to prove himself at this job at the highest level. I think his family was excited about it. He's excited about it. I think he's trying to make hires that are equally as excited. And I think all these guys coming over from Duke are going to feel that way. I love that he's bringing his whole support staff, guys. Like, that tells me, like, you have the opportunity to leave people behind, and he's bringing virtually the entire support staff. Director of football, whatever the titles are, football operations, GM, recruiting coordinator, the recruiting team. Bringing them all over, I think, speaks volumes, and it's saying, like, hey, I think I've got a really outstanding group. I know what it takes at A&M. I know the type players we have to get on campus. I've been there. I've done it. I've helped them recruit those players. All this crew can handle it. And it's true. They can. It's about organization. It's about a plan, not just on recruiting weekends, but every single day. And he'll hold over just enough, I believe, to kind of make that transition as smooth as possible.
Billy, let's hit a break here. We'll come back and get some final thoughts on everything. Unless you want to stay longer, you're more than welcome to stay as long as you want.
Stay.
We can call it the Billy Lucci Show. We'll do that. Right now, we're talking.
Here, let's call it whatever you want.
The Billy Lucci Show. Let's do it. We're talking to Send, a locally owned and Aggie-owned operated concrete lifting company and support company. Was with them just yesterday at Fargo's. That's who I had my meeting with. They're great people over there, providing an easy, clean service at half the price of replacement. They are problem solvers when it comes to concrete issues. So, like, if you have any issues, like you have older folks at home and the concrete on their driveway is a little higher, they can lift it and make it even and almost look like brand new. It's the beauty of it, and it's, of course, a fraction of the cost. Most concrete raising jobs will take a few hours, start to finish, and your concrete will be ready to use immediately upon completion. They're honest, over 60 years of professional construction and concrete experience. They would like to educate you on the lifting process and the materials that they use so you can completely understand the feel and comfort about Ascend. It will tell you and show you why concrete tends to settle in the poor soil conditions, the poor compaction, the tree roots, and the poor drainage. Ascend will tell you your signs for looking for, from cracks to crumbling to pool water to porches to patios, all the way down the foundation. And most importantly, they're going to help you find a solution before your problem escalates. They are awesome. Call them up. And by the way, they're local, statewide, and nationwide. They'll go. They'll take care of you. Houston, Dallas, wherever you may be. Austin, 979-933-8527. Ascend can raise and stabilize any form of concrete slab. Once the project is finished, the appearance is close to seamless to your eyes. They can take care of you in neighborhoods. They can also do commercial, industrial, municipal. Again, it is Ascend. Call them up. Go visit them several different ways. 979-933-8527. Ascend, 979-933-8527. Brutally handsome. Look at that. OB banger right here. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. OB, we've had Billy in here. He walked away to make some calls. So is it fair to say you and I are very similar when it comes to intrigued, optimistic, wait and see?
All those things. I like the numbers. The numbers tell me Colin Klein is a heck of an offensive coordinator. He has a good system. He has a good approach. I have to believe that by the numbers and what people tell me because, again, I haven't watched a lot of Kansas State. I did watch them play TCU last year in that bowl game and or that Big 12 championship game, and they were moving the ball up and down the field. I'm intrigued. There's reason to be optimistic. Like Billy and you were talking about, you're hearing from high school coaches that are saying great things about him.
And the high school coach I heard from usually isn't down with a lot of the moves we make at A&M. So that just kind of shows you how Colin Klein is perceived, and also Mike Elko, by the way.
So I guess I'm to a point where I'm not to the point where I'm going to just be pessimistic no matter what the situation is, like some of the guys Billy said typically are. But I am going to be. I'm intrigued is a good word, and I can't wait till.
You're guarded.
I'm guarded. I can't wait till the 31st of August to find out what he can do. Yeah,
that's every hire though, guys. Unless you have a head coach that's been there a long time, and you go, dude, I'm gonna try. Let's say R.C. Slocum loses a D coordinator in year 8. You're like, well, hell, if R.C. picks him, I know he's gonna be a good D coordinator. Maybe he had a miss along the way, but I don't know that he did. So unless you've got a guy that just Or if you hired a Kirby Smart out of the blue and you just go, yeah, this dude's going to get it with his defensive hires. But even the people in Georgia were very skeptical about their OC hire this year until he proved it. And a few games in, they were. So I think hey, I'll believe it when I see it thing, I think it's reasonable, it's normal. Unless your head coach is a guy that just got a career track record of dude, if he picks him, he's golden. And I think that's normal for anywhere, not just A&M.
I think it's kind of like the hire of Mike Elko here as defensive coordinator. We heard some really good things. Mm-hmm. So at the time, I'm saying, okay, I feel like you can expect a really good defense, and then you got one.
Yeah.
But since then, with Jimbo overall, when he came here, and I was here when – and you were too, when people were doing high fives over Francione and all these things. Yeah. I have learned to condition myself to just be somewhat optimistic, but still have to take the wait and see attitude.
Guys,
no, I think if you say anything along those lines, you would say he hasn't been a coordinator for very long. But
that doesn't bother me.
Well, I'm saying then you're just being kind of cautious for the sake of being cautious, just from years of
being conditioned,
erosion.
Be conditioned.
Olin's been eroded by the waves of mediocrity.
And it's not just A&M.
A lot of people feel that way.
It's I feel that way with Texans hires. I felt that way with Dusty Baker being named the manager of the Astros. There's an element of I got to see it, and that's just I think a lot of us are
whatever the opposite of Dusty Baker is. That's what Colin Klein hire would be.
Yeah,
but. On the day that the guy's hired, I think you should be, based on resume and based on what people in the sport say. And I think as the day unfolds and you start hearing what people write and say about it around college football, I think that enthusiasm will go up. We all understand it doesn't have to work. And Lord knows people in College Station, Texas understand that. And I would say particularly so on offense, guys, because I've been doing this for a long time. And I don't know if I can count on one hand the number of truly explosive, elite college football offenses I've seen, but probably so. I can probably count them on one hand. And that's been long a source of frustration.
And unfortunately, when they were elite on offense, they typically were poor on defense.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be poor on defense with Mike Elko around.
No, and I think what I like about Klein too is this is an offense that understands spreading you out, utilizing the entire field, different levels in the passing game. They love going deep down the field, and he's doing that. Like I said, again, they've had some really good receivers go through Manhattan, Kansas.
Yeah.
Most of them were Lockett's. But this is a coach that really gets it in terms of, I think, utilizing the entire field, creating matchup problems, creating creases in the running game. And that's my thing is they love running the football, and they'll do it with the quarterback. And so no matter how 2023, 24 and current and modern this offense is, it is still built around running the football and the ability to do that when you want to, the ability to do that on early downs, the ability to stay ahead of the change, the ability to create matchup problems in the run game, which we've seen so many teams do to A&M.
Yep.
Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss last year. Like, to do that, I like that a lot more with a defensive-minded head coach because I think it meshes very well.
Billy, there's a chance we do this again at some point in the next couple of days.
Yeah, there is.
Thank you very much, buddy. All right, this was a very awkward ending to the hour.
It was.
Yeah,
It
I
was
was just
really
hoping
bad.
that you would.
What
No,
do you have at 9 o'clock?
I have John Harris, but I can push him back. You can.
Now you do that on air. I thought we were pushing him back.
Then we did. We just did. How about that?
Do you have time for John Harris?
I'll make it work. Don't worry about it.
Now I'm the bad guy
No.
for John and all the John
No,
Harris
we just push
fans.
people
Oh.
back. It's fine. We got to go. It's TexAgs. little more Billy, a little more OB. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Rescheduled with John Harris. He'll join us tomorrow at some point. Appreciate everybody listening in. We are reacting to Colin Klein being close to, or at least he's agreed to being the new OC at Texas A&M.
He'll be here as early as this afternoon.
That quickly. Look at that. All right. Do you know what kind of recruiter or any words on that?
I actually haven't done my due diligence on that one yet.
Well, the fact that people are excited about him makes me feel like that's half the battle when it comes to recruiting.
Oh, by the way, we haven't mentioned Olin was a part of this with his vote. Also, by the way, also a Heisman finalist at Kansas State, and a great college quarterback, one of the best players, individual players in Kansas State football history. Guy's a winner. He's a dog of a competitor and was a sensational college quarterback. For the folks in Austin that keep pointing to the fact that they hadn't beaten Texas with that offense, I wonder what he did to him as a QB.
I'm sure he had some amazing moments against him as a QB. It seems like Texas for years had trouble with Kansas State, and as I recall in 2012,
Crawley had trouble with them a couple weeks ago, but maybe
they
I'm
did.
Crazy.
All right, well,
they couldn't run against those guys, and you know what he did? He had Will Howard, who's not going to be an NFL QB, throw for like 350 and 4 touchdowns.
Well, I know they beat Texas 42-24 that year, that 2012, when
Klein was
finalist. Yeah.
Okay.
I know we talked a little bit about portal with Jake Johnson announcing that on Twitter that he's going to be entering the portal.
Yeah.
What about who the Aggies are targeting? I know there's been a couple of guys out there, and you've even retweeted a couple of things about some names out there that we should be looking into.
It's early, David, but a couple of receivers coming in this weekend. One, ODU, South Carolina State. They've got a couple of guys that are insanely productive at the smaller level coming in this weekend, but I think the next weekend's going to be pretty massive in terms of, I say massive, but you're going to have some key portal guys coming in. There's been a few names that have certainly piqued the interest when I've seen them go in, where A&M is going to kick the tires and give those guys a look. Like a DN from UTSA that was a conference defensive player of the year. Those type guys, a D lineman from Florida State, I'm sure we'll get a look. But I think more of where you're going to see A&M looking in the portal, guys that haven't gone in yet. We've got names that, at more than one potential linebacker. There's the one Pooh from Arkansas that they've offered, but there's actually a really highly thought of cornerback from Kansas State, 6'3" cover man that they offered. Elko likes that. He went and, not only signed Miles Jones, but brought him from A&M to Duke with him. But I think it's going to be more guys that haven't gone in yet. We've heard about pass rushers. We've heard about linebackers. We've heard about corners that are not in the portal yet that plan to go. And, by the way, also a lot of skill position guys. Wide receiver will be the most interesting position, in my opinion, on offense, because they've got some exciting guys coming in this weekend. But, my God, you look at a position nationally that's on a whole nother – the portal's already looking impressive at wide receiver, and it's just going to get added to more and more.
Well, hopefully they can find somebody as a receiver that can make an impact similar to what the Louisiana Tech kid did at Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah.
Or A.D. Mitchell at Texas, or Keon Coleman at Florida State. They're out there. They'll be out there again this year.
Well, I think everybody could have looked at Keon Coleman and say, well, he's going to be good wherever he goes.
Yeah.
But when you get a guy, and I know you mentioned some of the guys are looking at were from smaller schools, and you see, quite frankly, how that guy at Ole Miss did. And, really how Ja'Day Walker, how he trended.
Yep.
From Grand Valley State.
And, looks like he could be a starter next year.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the guys that have gone in the portal from A&M. I'm just going to read them out loud. The most recent one was Jake this morning, Jake Johnson. Max Johnson already at North Carolina. Gilbert, Overton that came out yesterday. Is Walter's not officially in the portal
No, but
Not
I'm
fictional.
expecting that.
Right.
And even if he ended up coming back to A&M, I'm expecting that. But my thing is this. People still haven't – when you put your name in the portal, it appears like there's a 48-hour – I don't know what you would call it. It's not a cooling off period, but it's 48 hours before your name appears in the portal. I think Walter Nolan's name will eventually appear. I don't know this for sure, but I think it will eventually appear in the portal. A&M, if it does, here's where I come on. A&M will have done everything they can to keep him and meetings with him and his family and yada, yada, yada. If he still goes in, then essentially, to me, that's a message of, hey, we're exploring other options. Some people are going to truly be exploring other options. Some people are going to go see what they get in the way of offers.
Right.
You know, see who's coming with the biggest bag. I mean, that's 2023 portal. It is what it is. And I'm not saying which one any specific player would be, but there's certainly players that are going to go out there and try to see what their value is on the open market, not just at A&M, but everywhere. Somewhere along the way, head coaches, each one of them have to make their own decision on where they draw the cutoff line and say, hey, we've done everything we can. Let's go. And whatever you were going to pay said player in terms of NIL out of what has essentially become a salary cap, let's call it what it is in college football. Problem is everybody's salary cap is so different.
Right.
A
budget.
Luckily, A&M's up there. They're not at the top like people think. They're trying to get there. Texas is at the top in that regard by a million miles over everyone else, and that's, if you start digging deep enough, that's factual. Nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with where A&M is. They're way up there. I don't know if they're top 3, top 5. They're not outside the top 10, and they're probably a lot closer, to 1 than they are 10. But they can go higher. And hires like today generate excitement. Keeping certain guys and them announcing their stand generate excitement. But whatever a number is on a player, let's say Olin Buchanan wants $500,000 to stay, and he's a really good player. We know it. You want to keep really good players. You want to keep veterans that have proven it against the SEC at any position, right? At some point, you have to say, all right, if Olin leaves, then what can I get with that money? I can go probably get a guy from his same position that's equally as accomplished for around the same amount, or I can say we're okay at this position, and I can go get 2 players for the price of 1, 2 different positions that you might need more. I can say we're going to replace him with an equal or comparable talent. You might be able to do that for half the price and still go get a second player. I could spread that money around to some other guys that I'm trying to keep. There's a lot of things. So this is literally Moneyball in terms of your roster. And so and going back to a guy like Walter Nolan, A&M is doing everything they can to keep him. They value him. I think they understand how good he can be. There's also a level going on right now in a new coaching tenure where you're trying to, when you lose Elijah, you're trying to plug the dam and not, there's a momentum and a perception thing that unfortunately happens right here because people at other schools try to speak it into existence. Like take LT Overton, for example. You have everyone making a massive deal about this because he has a 5-star attached to his name. I like LT a lot. He's a great kid. I think he was a nice representative of Texas A&M. I like having veteran talent on your roster, even if they haven't played yet. That's why I like guys like Gabe Brownlow-Dindy. But the reality is he didn't play nearly as much this year as some of the other guys, a lot of the other D linemen, and particularly some of them his own age. So while I would have preferred to see him stay, that's not this devastating hit mass exodus thing that people try to make it out to be. But they do, and so kids are reading that. You see that. other people say, wow, look at him getting all this pub leave, and maybe I'll do it and get pub myself. You know, so at some point you have to stem that tide, and certain guys are more important than others in that regard. And A&M they're going to take some hits in the coaching transition in the portal. And maybe it's Walt. They're going to take some more significant hits. Maybe it's an Evan Stewart. You know, how do you respond and what do you bring in? I think A&M would do really well to, you know, get these coordinators hired, get a couple of these current players to say, hey, I'm staying, I'm all in. Get some real positivity via the portal, and maybe a home run recruit or two. You know, maybe get a Draylon Miller back. Maybe go get somebody that you otherwise weren't going to get until you hired Colin Klein, until Mike Elko got here. So these are the type things you want to and need to see start happening in the next couple weeks. And then you level set, and then it's go time.
Well, Billy, these coaches too bring in their own relationships. So there are going to be people, like when Elijah left, we were worried that people were going to leave. Well, when people come in, there's people that follow them too, or want to play for them. Maybe they were recruited at a different school and they want to come follow this guy. Sean Spencer's got relationships.
I was going to say, like a certain defensive lineman from Florida, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know? I mean, look.
You got a guy at Florida that was, I'm not saying that Princely Umanmi Ellen is going to come back to A&M. He might be perfectly happy at Florida, right?
Right.
Or he might go to the NFL. The reality, though, is that's a guy from Manor. Some people would say Manor. They'd be wrong, right? Manor, Texas.
I actually just learned that right now.
Right there on the way to Austin. And I saw him crush Haynes King, unfortunately, a couple times at Kyle Field 2 years ago, but he was second-team All-SEC pick. A&M's got some dudes that had more stars by their names that were played in the same conference that weren't second-team All-SEC. This guy had, 8 sacks? I think 8 sacks this year. So that's just one example. And it could be him. It could be somebody. You know, there are guys around college football that it's about who do you keep, and when you do lose guys, who do you replace them with? And it's about it's a momentum thing as well. But you're right. Every coach that comes in is going to have A, players that they recruited to their school, B, guys that they know in recruiting that are, you know, high schoolers that they've targeted, and C, they're also going to have guys around the country in college football that they recruited and didn't get. That they go, okay, I know this guy Nuño over at Oregon State, who, you know, led their team in tackles this year. He was a stud linebacker. Like, I recruited him. I had a great relationship with him, but he was from, you know, California, and he wanted to stay out west, and now he feels differently. You know, like you said, and that's why it's important too to have that mix of guys coming over from Duke, but also from the outside. There's also a lot of guys that Elko and his staff at Duke probably recruited that they just couldn't get at Duke
because they were at Duke, that
are now somewhere else that go, hey man, if you guys wouldn't Coach Buchanan, Coach Buck, man, I really wanted to play for you, but you were at Duke, and I didn't know if you guys were going to win. And I would love to play in the SEC and be at A&M. So that's going to happen as well.
How does it work, Billy, with coaches on the staff right now that we don't know their future? And you mentioned you don't think DJ Durkin will be part of the next staff. Is he completely pulled off?
That. Hell, who knows? Maybe Elko wants him to coach linebackers, and he does that for a couple of years because he doesn't have a standing DC.
Sure.
I'm making that up.
Yeah.
Never heard anything like that, but I'm just saying before you say he won't be.
But
here.
do they pull him off the recruiting trail? Is it completely, you're just bowl preparations, our guys are doing this? How does that work?
I haven't heard if Durkin's on the trail, but there are guys that are on the current staff that are still on the recruiting trail.
That's where you should.
Yeah, you're getting paid.
You're getting paid.
Yeah.
In fact, Mike Elko at his first press conference said, well, you know, I'm expecting some guys to, you know, be professional, and I think they will.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody goes through that anytime there's
you
a coach.
You don't do that, and I've seen guys in the past that have kind of gotten out, and they've gotten kind of caught that they were almost like had taken another job and were behind the scenes. They think they're slick and sneaky, and try to tell kids. that they're at one school recruit. Did he do that at Tennessee?
Yeah,
to USC.
They were calling players, telling them not to go, and using Tennessee phones.
Yeah. And so you get caught like that, and I know Kiffin's recovered from it, but some of these young up-and-coming coaches, you can really sabotage yourself and your career in doing that, especially when it's a respected head coach that, hey, you're going to take a job with him, I'm going to call you and go, hey, man, listen, here's what this guy did here. The overwhelming majority of coaches that I've seen, because I've seen, unfortunately, so many coaching changes here, the overwhelming majority of them don't do that.
Yep.
A lot of people say what they say about Jeff Banks because he's at Texas now, and I think he left to Bama. The buyout was a problem. There was a little shadiness there to try to get out of that buyout on the Bama side. Bama kind of corrected that. But Jeff Banks was recruiting for A&M under Jimbo. And deep down, kind of knew he was probably going to leave for Bama. He had an offer from Nick Saban to coach at Alabama. Jimbo offered him to stay on at A&M. I think deep down he knew he was going to take the opportunity to go coach with Saban at Alabama. And he recruited for A&M. And by all accounts, did a good job. And so I think most guys do that in this, because you know what the repercussions are if you don't. And if you're gonna do that, then just go, like Bobby Petrino did.
Any I don't want to say timeline, but over the next few days, we still expect more movement in some capacity.
Of course, you talking about coaching wise?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think a defensive coordinator hire is imminent. I think that'll happen pretty soon. Again, the guy has to say yes, and so I think that's fairly. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see that happen in the next day or so.
I believe you phrased earlier in the show, young.
I think so.
So will it?
And not every single coach who's targeted
no.
has been young. Like in terms of even the coordinators, it was Colin Klein. There were another couple names. One of them was not young. He was highly successful. That's why I got so fired up about when I was presented some names on each side of the ball. I went, okay. And that's when I started writing, like, guys, these hires are going to be really strong. And I don't know who's excited, who's not excited about Colin Klein, but when you really dig into it, like if you're being honest, like that's an like Olin said, there's never guarantees. And it's not entirely dependent on Colin Klein anyway. Dependent on, whether you hit with your quarterbacks or not. It's dependent on, just where does the momentum take you? How great are these defenses versus but the reality as we sit here today, if you're not excited and don't think this is a good hire, you're probably more of just like, hey, I've been burned too many times. I don't want to love this. Because on paper, and that's all we got right now, and by reputation, and that's all we got right now, and by what people that know the current, college football landscape, it's going to be overwhelmingly positive, and that's for a reason. But that's all you got to go on. You don't know how any of these things are going to work out at A&M, like you said, including Elko.
The reviews are great.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if the movie's as good as they say it is.
Yeah.
Basically, that's kind of my approach.
Yeah.
I'm glad that the reviews are great.
It excites you.
It makes me want to go see it.
And they need that right now. You need, like we said, when they hired Elko, right? It was, you needed to make a hire that like would allow you to dream big. And you couldn't do that anymore with Jimbo. And that was like, whether it's the big donors, whether it's the fans, whether it's the TexAgs or us or the recruits, current players, which is as important as anything with in the portal era, you couldn't look at it and dream big things. That went away. And when that goes away, man, it's hard. And so when you made the hire, I think that the fans, the people, when the Stoops name got out, it wasn't allowing people to see that name and dream big. With Elko, he gives you the ability to do that, and I think that hey, I can dream of this thing working now. I can envision it went up another several notches today with the news of Colin Klein.
Any closing thoughts before we hit the break?
Closing thoughts.
Let's go, Jerry Springer.
We've been through this so much, and I just don't want to repeat myself, but I do look at, again, take the time and look at what Kansas State did offensively, understanding that's not an offense that's just teaming with NFL prospects. And look at what they did against teams that have recruited better than them. And you'll come away going, oh, this is really interesting. And again, I'll come back to Texas. 350 or 327 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. They lose 33-30 on the road. And they were at the 4-yard line, I believe it was, at the end of the game.
Which I didn't. That's one thing. And it's probably that's a head coach decision there to go for it.
Right.
There.
Right.
But
go
yeah,
overtime.
But the point is that Texas is in the playoffs. Some people are saying they can win the national championship, and without the same level of talent, you ran an offense that came within a coach's decision of tying and going into overtime on the road.
And they did. I watched that. They got off to that was the same time A&M was playing Ole Miss. They got off to a really slow start. That were trying to run the football, and they just couldn't against those two guys, brick wall there, Murphy and Sweat, and that was just a killer.
So what you're saying is the coach adjusted. Hey, how about that?
What a concept.
Adjustments.
Gentlemen, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Nunes.
All right, moment now for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They're on Highway 21 in Caldwell. They're online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. When you are looking for a new vehicle, we know how stressful of a situation that can be. You want to make sure you do that at the right place at the right time. And you want to make sure you go somewhere that you can trust. And that's why most of us here at TexAgs, have bought a vehicle at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. It's a great place to go to get the right deal on your current vehicle, right? You want a good trade-in value, you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. You want a great selection, you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. You want great customer service, you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. That's what you're going to get when you go to the best place here in the Brazos Valley when it comes to finding the vehicle that fits your needs at your timeline. It's about a 15-minute drive, Brown to Caldwell, short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. All right, we are back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to one of the prides of Caldwell. Devin Morris is in studio. What's up, D?
What's up? How are you?
Good, man. So we were going to try to do it, I think, last week, and then things got crazy. Then we're going to do it this morning at 8:30, and things got crazy. But now you're here in studio, so thank you for coming in.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
So I saw a lot of former players reacting when Mike Elko was named the head coach. You were one of the ones that was very outspoken about why you liked it. You just told me at the break you spent 3 years with him.
Mm-hmm.
What excites you so much about Coach Elko?
Just nothing but good things to say about Elko. I mean, he's just an incredibly smart, intelligent coach on and off the field. And like you said, he was my coach for 3 years, so I know him on a personal level more than better than other people. So just nothing but good things to say about him, and I'm excited to see what he does with the program. And as you know, all the hires he's getting now, people seem excited about it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what he does.
So could you tell this guy's going to be a head coach one day? Did he give off that vibe very early on?
Yeah, for sure. Just like in meetings, after practice when he would talk to the team, just how enthusiastic he was, I could tell like one day he was going to be a head coach. I didn't know it was going to be at A&M, but I knew he was going to be a head coach one day.
What is it about his – because he seems stoic. He seems also like a player's coach, but no nonsense. Help me understand that part of him.
Yeah, yes, I would consider him a player's coach, but like you said, no nonsense. He's straightforward with you, doesn't take any BS. Like, he's straightforward, but he on and off on the field, he's serious. But off the field, like, you can go to his house, chill with him, his family. He's that type of guy.
All right, so when you were here, the program felt like it was going like this. Then it went off the cliff, right? And it went south quick. When it happened, it happened. And there are reasons. It's not injuries. The offense kind of got a little stale. What do you think? What was ultimately the downfall of the Jimbo Fisher era?
I can't really say. You know, I mean, being in the locker room, a big deal is the new NIL and transfer portal and all that. I hate it. I don't like where it's going. It's destroying college football. Like, for example, 85% of the people I say 85%. Yes, enter the portal, leave based on probably NIL, where they can go get more money, or they're not happy with their playing time or whatever, which I don't get. Like, nowadays, kids want things handed to them, and I don't think that's not how it's supposed to be. You have to earn
your time
in college football, whatever it is. You have to earn playing time. You have to earn being under those bright lights on Saturday. Nothing's going to get handed to you. So I think that's a big deal, is the NIL and transfer portal, and that's really going downhill in my opinion.
Yeah, one thing that I think most people say out loud that would fix a little bit of it is, all right, you want to go in the portal? You got to sit out a year. Go back to the way it used to be.
Yeah.
I don't like that you can go in the portal and then be like, all right, who's going to pay me the most? Oh, I didn't play as a freshman. Too bad. I'm out. You know, I don't like that. Would you like to see that rule back? That you got to sit out if you're going to go in, or unless you've been at a program for a couple years?
Yes, I don't like how kids can just jump ship whenever. Like you said, they have to at least sit out. I don't know whose rule that is to make, but something needs to be done about that.
You had your trials and tribulations while you were a college athlete. Take me through a little bit of that and how you were able to maneuver through it personally.
What people don't understand is my whole entire career at A&M, I don't remember one game where I was healthy physically.
Mm-hmm.
There was always something I had to go through, whether it was hamstring injury, hip flexor, growing, concussions, you name it. I always had to play through something. But you can tell from the outside looking in because I was still making plays. But there were also a few games where I could have performed even better than I did, and nobody knew this besides my trainers and my coaches. And once you tweak your hamstring or hip flexor or whatever, it doesn't go away in a few days. Mm-mm. It usually lasts weeks, depending how bad it is.
If you're still playing, it doesn't go away.
Yes. So dealing with that week after week after week mentally took a toll on me. But yeah, man, a lot of people don't even know my body's been through a lot throughout my career, and I had to overcome so much adversity and overcome so many barriers to continue playing at the highest level, and I believe I did that.
What did it do to your mental health, like knowing, man, physically I can't perform the way I know I can perform?
Yeah. So as you know, I've dealt with my bouts of depression throughout my career. So when you get an injury, when you're starting on the depth chart, when you get an injury, you have to go all the way back down. And you have to go to rehab and mentally prepare yourself to get back. People don't understand how hard that is. So just continuing to have things happen, it really just messed with me mentally, and that's a huge part of why that I went through things I went through.
But you're in a good place. I mean, you're
Yeah.
coaching. You look happy.
Mm-hmm.
You're very involved still with A&M games. I see that you're
Yeah.
out there, so you're in a really good spot now.
Yes, sir, for sure.
Let's put the sports analyst hat on for a minute. Can we talk about a couple different things?
Yeah.
Playoffs. Did they get it right?
I think they did get it right.
Okay.
I feel bad for Florida State, obviously, but I think, like they said, injuries played a part. And I don't, as much as I didn't want Texas to be in there, I don't see how they can go from what were they ranked before? 7, 8?
7, I think they were 7, yeah.
How did they go?
They were 6, right? Because you had, regardless, in that range.
How did they go from 6 to 3, and Georgia goes from 1 to 6?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't get that part. But
losing late hurts more than losing early. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, but I agree. Bama beat the number 1 team, so I knew they were in for sure. But
how's Georgia not in? To me is like, or Florida, like, it just shows the whole system is flawed, and they've been able to get away with it on certain years, but on the final year, of course. Yeah. And then, of course, Texas may win it all, by the way, because I think they've got an easy, and I don't want to say easy, Washington wins every game that they've been in, but I feel like their path to a championship might be easier than, say, Michigan, the number 1 team, who's got to take on Alabama, who's not the same Alabama team. And then Texas A&M next year will host that Texas team that you didn't get to play in that rivalry, but I know you're very aware of.
Yeah, everybody has that game circled on their calendar. I mean, do you know how much security is going to have to be at that game?
It's going to be crazy. How
many fights there are going to be between fans? Like, it's going to be crazy. I mean, going to be the biggest game for sure ever that they two played. But I don't know if I'm going to be there or I'm just going to watch it on my couch. But I'm for sure going to tune in.
Yeah. All right, so last thing. Overall, you feel like the program is back to maybe where it was in 2019 to 2020 on the way back up?
Yeah. I'm excited to see who he brings in as DC. I heard a lot, some good things about the OC he just brought in. I don't know too much about him, but I've heard nothing but good things.
Here's one for you. He finished second, I think it was second, to Johnny in the Heisman in 2012.
I heard that too.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see who he brings in at DC and just to bring that culture back to A&M what it was when he was here. There was a good culture here in 2020. Mm-hmm. So just to bring that wrecking crew defense mindset back and to have everybody on board, and I'm just excited for it. And I know he knows what he's doing, and he'll get the job done for sure.
Devin, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Right now, a moment for the Association of Former Students. If your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, then check out the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together during events throughout the year. You got marquee events such as Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo. You got the Gathering, and they all welcome tens of thousands of guests. And there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of all attendees. All events offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. Options include title sponsorship, naming, on-site presence and activation, recognition and social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information or options through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. Got a big game tonight. We got a game for the women starting in about an hour and 20. It's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Talk a little basketball here for a little bit with our buddy, the coach, Tom Schuberth, in studio. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, David. Good to be
see
here,
you, man.
Same here.
Bro, I broed you. I'm sorry. But you've been in a basketball locker room before. Bro, you can't dress this nice on the show when I wear a T-shirt. You're just not allowed to.
Well, I'm a guest, so you want to overdress rather than underdress. And you guys always look so sharp, and you're on every day. I'm on once a week.
I always use this line. There's a movie, I just used it the other day, movie Boiler Room, where Ben Affleck says, act as if you're the bleeping CEO. Well, my friend, you're acting as if you are the head coach here. Let's get into it with DePaul. Your thoughts on where A&M may be vulnerable against DePaul.
Sure. Well, vulnerability comes from overlooking people sometimes, and I don't think A&M has ever done that in the last 2 or 3 years. I think they take every opponent very seriously. The scary thing about DePaul, you look at their record, they're 1-6. They've lost like 4 or 5 games at home to inferior opponents, and you think, well, this is going to be a cakewalk. The problem is they're very talented, and they can score in bunches, and I think they're going to eventually figure it out. I don't think they're a very good defensive team at this point, and if I had to compare them to an opponent that we've played earlier this year, I would say they're very similar to SMU without the defensive intensity.
Sure.
They've got guys that can score at every position. They're long, they're athletic, they've got experience. I mean, most of their players are seniors and graduate students.
That scares me.
It does. And eventually they're going to win a game they're not supposed to. Hopefully it won't be tonight. And then they're in the Big East, and they're by far have the worst record. But I guarantee you they'll beat one of the top Big East teams on the road or at home before the season's over.
I'm looking at your write-up of players to watch, and I'm looking at the sizes of these dudes. Jeremiah Oden, 6'9". You've got another guy, Deshaun Nelson, 6'8". All part of their starting lineup, a 6'6" guard in Elijah Fisher. They're big and physical.
They are, and they can score. And again, these guys have had success at other places. Oden's from Wyoming. He had a tremendous year there. Chico Carter, their starting guard, he's a transfer from South Carolina that had a lot of success. So eventually they'll put it together. And again, when you build your team on a lot of transfers, it's going to take a little longer to start gelling. Hopefully we catch them, when they're still in the process of becoming a good team. But I think what Buzz will do is he's worried about our team. I don't think they try to take away the strengths of DePaul, but he's more worried about the Aggies.
Let's talk a little bit about what Buzz has to do, and he's a master at this, at adjusting mid-season. We're not mid-season. We're very early in the season. But when you have to adjust for injuries, and Boots has been missing, and you have to adjust for suspensions, the situation with Julius Marble out there, and just adjust with the way people are maybe playing at the moment. What goes through the mind of a coach of how you massage it, especially with the hardest part of the non-conference coming up?
Correct. I think that's what makes a coach a great coach is how you adjust. Adjustments, whether it's during a game, whether it's prior to a game, whether it's learning from after a defeat or a victory. The thing that we've talked about when we were analyzing the Aggies, we were talking about having a Julius Marble, a starting center that was coming back, that was probably playing his best basketball at the end of the year. We were talking about having Radford healthy and playing every game. So at that time, I think the Aggies were a top 10 team, like they earned their reputation. But now with these suspensions and injuries, they're a different team, and that's what makes a coach a masterful guy and trying to learn how he can still be effective and win every game. And what we talked about earlier, David, that's what goes through the mind, and I believe, of every coach. They take each game one at a time, and they're trying to win that game. And as soon as that's over, they're preparing for the next. So I don't think he's worrying about, well, how long is Boots going to be out, or are we going to get Julius back? I think they're worried about, let's beat DePaul, and then we'll focus on Memphis on Sunday.
Well, with the TBD with Boots, and we don't know, right now we know nothing there. I keep bringing up, I feel like Wade and I don't know why I said it like that. I feel like Wade. I feel like Wade needs somebody next to him at the guard position to take a little bit of the pressure off of him. That's with ball handling, with shooting, with attacking the rim. Yeah, Henry is playing out of this world, but I feel like you need some help on the guard side. Is that how you would see it?
Absolutely. I've said before, I don't know if Wade's a true point guard. That's just my opinion. He's a tremendous basketball player. And again, a lot of basketball now is positionless, so it doesn't really matter what you're labeled. But I think when he's able to more focus on scoring and shooting, and you take those ball handling duties away from him, it helps him relax a little bit. That's just my opinion. I do think opponents try to force him into mistakes. You know, he's got a high turnover rate right now, much higher than he's had his entire career, and part of that is teams trying to disrupt him. And I think it's no secret, if you make him have a bad game, you're going to have a greater chance of being an A&M. Now, the great thing about him is he can go off at any time.
Right.
He's scary. You know, he'll miss 8 in a row and knock down 5 in a row. He hasn't had that streak yet of really, you know, making a bunch of shots like he normally does. But it'll come, and then hopefully we get Radford back and we get better at playing together as a team, and then he's able to just relax. And as you know, when you're unknown last year, like we talked about on the show, no one knew who WED was basically, and now he's preseason SEC Player of the Year. He's getting everybody's A game on defense. He's getting the focus from every opponent on their defensive philosophies. So I think he's doing fine. You know, he's shooting 25% from the three. You go 6 for 10 in a game and, 5 for 8 or whatever, and now you're back up in the 30s, and now you're feeling a little bit more confident.
Let me follow up on the three-point shooting from the team overall. 2 seasons ago, I think it was, they were not a very good free throw shooting team, and then they were. It was like, I think it was during the 8-game win streak at the end of the 22s, 21, I don't even know what year it was, 21 season, that they started like, okay, now we're hitting. Does that happen with three-point shooting? This team is not shooting the ball well. They've struggled shooting the ball for a couple seasons, but I feel like even this year the three-point shots are significantly worse.
Absolutely. I think confidence is so important in shooting a basketball, particularly from the three-point line and the free throw line, because they're a consistent shot. You know you're going to be at least 20 feet, 9 inches behind from the rim when you're shooting the three, and the free throw's 15 feet away. So that's a consistency shot. And once you start making some and you get in a groove, it makes it a little bit easier. You mentioned free throws. I think that's one of the reasons we've had tremendous success the last 2 years, is that we've made timely free throws, and our percentage is outstanding. We're 73, I think, or 70, close to 74 this year. When you're shooting over 70 as a team, you feel good as a coach, and we're making them. And so I think our three-point shooting will come along. I do think our selection hasn't been as good as it can be, and that's from a learning process. And then again, maybe the defenses are designed to get us to rush to three. I don't know the other team's game plan or what the opponents are definitely trying to do, but I do know they're not going to let our best shooters get rhythm 3 jump shots.
Stick around for one more segment. We're going to hit a break here, right?
Absolutely.
All right, talking to Sean, I'll call you Sean, I don't know why. Tom Schuberth. I mixed the 2 words. Right now, don't go through another year without awful joint pain. You don't want to live life like that, friends. Call QC Kinetics right now. Make 2024 the year that you're living your life normal again. Tom loves to climb trees. I use that term a lot, but he loves to climb. That's what he does in his spare time. He and his wife, they climb trees is what they do. Well, QC Kinetics can give you your life back. If they're the nation's leader in regenerative medicine, they're all natural treatments that can repair and restore that damaged joint tissue, giving you pain-free movement. Once again, they have tens of thousands of satisfied patients around the country. People who've had knee pain, perhaps you have back pain, shoulder pain, wherever it may be. You want lasting relief? You call QC Kinetics. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. That's the beauty of dealing with them right now. And if you've got pain from an old injury associated with arthritis, you need to check it out, because the future of medicine is here right now, and that is through our friends at QC Kinetics with regenerative treatments from their QC Kinetics. Make the call right now so you can live the most out of 2024, and don't forget you can use your HSA and FSA funds out there. Call them up, 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That is 979-452-6000. All right, we're finishing up here. TexAgs Radio, hour number 2, almost over. Tom Schubert still in studio. Tom, let's talk about this stretch that's coming up. We broke down DePaul. I know you haven't probably gone deep into prep yet for Memphis or Houston, but those are household names. We know the kind of coaching that Houston's going to get with Kelvin Sampson. Memphis obviously had got, I think the A&M and Memphis have split the last couple of years. They're an up-and-coming program. Just your thoughts on what's still ahead.
Well, when we get by DePaul tonight, I think Memphis is going to be in a unique game. Playing at home is going to be a huge help. Obviously, last year we had a great game against them and could have won the game very easily with a play at the end. But and they're a totally new team. I actually coached 5 seasons at the University of Memphis, and I coached Penny Hardaway. I didn't recruit him, but I coached him. So I do follow him quite a bit. I haven't watched them as much this year. I'm looking forward to the game on Sunday. They have basically a brand-new team from last year, and they had a very good season. They got a great player and a young man named David Jones that transferred from St. John's, and then they have another player that we're familiar with, Quinterly, that was a point guard at Alabama that was a phenomenal player. So those 2 guys are just tremendous talents, and when you guys like that, they can beat anybody or they can also be beaten. So I think our defensive pressure is going to give Memphis problems. I think our rebounding and our great the way we play, how hard we play, I think we'll have a lot of success playing Memphis. And then Houston is a totally different animal because you're going to get probably the hardest playing team or one of the hardest playing teams in the country with great experience coming back. And, the only thing they've got to adjust to is they had a great guard that they've lost, and now they've got to adjust to playing without him.
How important – and look, there's so much basketball to be playing, so I hate jumping ahead of myself too much, but it is really important to split those 2 games, right? Like, I mean, I'd love to get them both, but, like, you really have got to take one of those 2, especially during what feels like a little bit of a storm.
Absolutely. I think if you ask the coaches, would you take a split, they'd say yes. I mean, not many coaches want to admit to defeat, but yeah, those are 2 tough opponents. I think we have a greater chance of winning at home. Houston, although it's played in Houston, it's a neutral site game. It would probably make more of a statement if we were able to win that game because of Houston's ranking and their reputation. But at this point, I think what the coaches are looking to do is just win as many games as they can and take them one at a time. We're jumping ahead, but they're worried about DePaul, and rightfully they should be. But I think at the end of the year, when you look up and you've got 20-some wins, regardless of who they're against, we're a tournament team.
Yep.
And we just need to get healthy. We need to figure out whether we're going to, get Marble back. If we do, that's a plus. If we don't, there's still ways to be a dynamic team in this NCAA.
Tom, great work as always, sir.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much. All right, when we come back on TexAgs Radio, Ryan Broniger, the recruiting angle of stuff going on with Texas A&M, obviously the new coaching hire, OC, you name it. We'll get into it next on TexAgs Radio. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. I think it's interesting, like, when there's, and we're going to get into recruiting country here when Bronny joins the show. He's on the phone right now, probably breaking news or something, who knows. Presented by Caprock Health System, recruiting country is a faster patient-centered revolution in care with 2 ERs in the Bryan College Station area, the original 24-hour ER in South College Station on William D. Fitch, and the full-service hospital with ER in Bryan on Briarcrest, online at caprockhealthsystem.com. So, I think it's interesting when, like, many people didn't even know the name. I mean, you know the name Colin Klein, but you don't know, like, people fall in love with, like, the big names, right? Recruits, I don't think, fall in love with big names. I think big names are sometimes on social media, so they recognize it. But that is more for us. Like when it's names like that, kids care about the relationships and their path to playing, and maybe what the offense is going to look like. So when Colin Klein is hired, and it looks like he'll be touching down later on this afternoon per Billy, we start looking at the whys and what works with it and what doesn't. And I think kids look at, what is the offense going to look like? What's my relationship with them? What about my relationship with existing teammates? Hey, Ryan Broniger here in studio. Hello, Bronny.
Sorry about that.
It's all good.
As usual, when these kind of things are going on, coaching transitions, the phone rings.
Well,
and depending on what it says on there, you got to take it. And when it says Billy Lucci, you got to take it.
You got to take it when Billy calls. So what's been the reaction? Have you had much reaction from recruits, commits on Colin Klein being the OC here?
Not a lot right now, not from the commitments or prospects or anything like that. I think most of the reaction so far has been from high school coaches, both Jason and I, around the state of Texas. But also I had a coach reach out to me, a trainer actually reach out to me from that Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas area that has some pretty extensive background of Colin Klein and him recruiting some of that trainer's kids. And he gave me just a quick quote on what he thought about the hire. And he's like, his offenses are going to be just like he was as a player, tough and really efficient. And I think that word efficient goes a long way with the A&M fan base based off what we've watched over the last couple of years, right? Even when the offense was going good, how efficient was it? When you talk about scoring in the red zone and converting third downs, all those parts of what Colin Klein's offense has been in 22, but especially in 2023 at Kansas State, are all quality. Like, they're really good numbers. And especially when you account or take into account that according to overall composite talent, Kansas State was 13th out of 14 teams in the Big 12 this year. So he's doing a lot more with less.
One of the things that I've gotten to talk to you about the last week or so, and you've written about, and I know the story keeps, I don't want to say evolving, but the pieces are still being added to it. The reception that Mike Elko's getting on the road because of his approach, not only his reputation, but the way he's doing the work.
Super. I think, it's almost like you look at it like, man, this was kind of low-hanging fruit. And that's not to demean the job that he's doing. It's more to put a scope on how easy it is to be the head coach at Texas A&M and go visit with these high school coaches and how much it's appreciated. That's what I mean by that. I think a lot of times you think of the phrase low-hanging fruit as a negative.
Right.
But here it's like, man, this is
a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. Like, he's getting so much out of these visits and people seeing him face-to-face and understanding. I think probably as a head coach, the high school head coaches are then more understanding of your time. Maybe as a coordinator, you go in there and what do they want to do? Talk ball. Hey, These are my defensive coaches. This is how we're defending. It's our red zone defense we're having problems with, and the coach will go in there and break it down. I think as a head coach, you're able to be more efficient with your time because the head coaches at these high schools understand how valuable your time is. I had a couple of coaches in the greater Houston area that Coach Elko stopped by to see. On one of his first day in Houston, he saw Lonnie Madison, who's a head coach at Bridgeland High School and a former Texas A&M defensive lineman. He also saw Cornelius Anthony, who's a former all-conference linebacker at Texas A&M and the head coach at Fort Bend Hightower. So not only is he hitting some of the main schools in the city of Houston, but he's also hitting these schools that have Texas A&M connections as their head coaches. And people were really surprised by the simplicity of his approach. You know, he shows up. He doesn't have an entourage. He doesn't have a driver.
Just drives himself and
drives
goes.
himself and shows up and calls the coach, say, "Hey, I'm here." And you know, I think that's something that hadn't been happening from Texas A&M, and it's been really refreshing. I talked to multiple high school head coaches, some of which I don't expect Mike Elko to go in and see at least immediately. I think he'll eventually work his way around to some of these schools that maybe don't have elite prospects, but he can't cover the entire state in 2 weeks, and these coaches understand that. But I had a coach reach out to me and said, if you know Mike Elko, if you have a direct line to Mike Elko, you tell him whenever he gets around to coming to us, he has an open door to my program and to our football program and our football facility. Anytime he wants to show up, he needs to know that he's welcome at our place. And he then followed up and said, the last guy never showed up. And so, again, low-hanging fruit in the fact that he's going to get so much mileage off of this, and it's really a valuable way for him to spend his time. And I see some people that were wondering about, well, maybe he should have a driver, or maybe he should have an entourage with him so that he can be making phone calls and texts. Everybody that's driving in a car that's listening to this right now, when you make a phone call, it goes right to that Bluetooth. You just sit there and you drive and talk. How often do you do it?
I do it every day.
I get 20 texts driving to Houston and back on the weekends. I answer it all with my voice. You know, I can do that all in your car. So to think that he is neglecting part of his job in order to go see these high school coaches and be on these campuses.
I can't believe that's even a talking point.
But it is. It is. But that's people looking for nits to pick that aren't there. You don't have to do it with this guy. There's no way to guarantee that he's going to be successful here. But I can promise you this, just based off what I know about the guy and what the reputation that follows him, and then what he's shown us in a week being on the job. If Mike Elko doesn't succeed at Texas A&M, it won't be because of a lack of a work ethic. I mean, he is getting out there and busting his tail and making all these hires. We're seeing now a lot more aggressiveness in the portal. Like, all this stuff that we've been wanting to happen at Texas A&M is now happening in 9 days on the job, 10 days on the job.
I was trying to explain this, but I think you can do it more eloquently. When coordinators, coaches get hired, I think listeners, fans, we listen for the name and we wonder how that's going to work with the recruit or the commit. And my thing is, these kids don't always know what we know.
They very rarely do they know.
It's about relationships and
these 16, 17-year-old kids aren't sitting at home researching Colin Klein's red zone offense. Right? They're going to want to meet the guy. They'll look at the numbers, and when you hire a coach, you're going to have a package, a preset package that's going to go out to the recruit, say this is what he's done. I'm sure Colin Klein has a very detailed report on what his offense is and also how multiple it can be. But he had to work with the personnel that he had. And I'm sure Chris Kleiman at Kansas State has a very specific way he wants his offense run in terms of pace and tempo. And then you've got to understand the players that he had in Manhattan. I do think that it's going to look very similar, but I don't think it's going to be the exact same, because what if Mike Elko gives him more freedom? And then he's going to come here with better players. So maybe he gets even more creative with the way he does things. But I think what we're seeing is a more with less type of output from the coaches that Mike Elko is bringing in, right? They've done more with less. Whether it be the guys from Duke, whether it be Sean Spencer, whether it be Colin Klein. All these guys are coming in, and to a man, we have not got one person I don't know about that one. They've all been, hey, that's a really good hire. I talked to some sources that cover Florida that loved the Sean Spencer hire. They're like, yeah, that's an A hire. No question, that's an A hire. They talked about his energy and how, a lot of times that Billy Napier would let, and whenever he was at Penn State as well, Sean Spencer would do the pregame speeches in the locker room because he was such a good motivator. So it's been really cool to watch all this come together. And there's still obviously some more position coaches out there, and Billy will be, have the latest on all that. But from a recruiting standpoint, I love what he's done with the hires, but I also really like what he's done from an organizational structure standpoint. It is going to be the information is going to be, I think, much more efficiently communicated amongst the recruiting office and the coaching staff. I think he's providing a clear hierarchy of how things are work and information flows, and it's no different than any other successful business. Like if you have gaps in your organizational structure, informational flow gaps, you know, if people don't kind of follow protocols and chain of command stuff, it leads to big problems when you're running an organization that's that size.
Yep.
And if you look at Coach Elko's staff when he was at Duke, he expanded the staff in areas that A&M didn't even have. So he clearly went into Durham with ideas on how he would want things run after watching, you know, kind of from up close and personal while at Texas A&M. He went and said, okay, if I ever get my head job, this is the way I would want my organizational structure to look, and he's now implementing that at Texas A&M.
Yeah, I think that's one part of, like, he has this plan. He's sticking to his plan. We had Devin Morris on earlier, and I think this was a huge compliment. He's like, he is a player's coach, but he's no nonsense, right? And typically, if you're a player's coach, sometimes nonsense is allowed. Mm-hmm. He's a hybrid of the two. He's going to do it his way, and he's going to be flexible, but there's a certain approach he's going to have. But he's also going to put his arm around you and make sure that you know that he cares. Yeah,
and it'll be really interesting to see how that manifests itself on the recruiting trail as the head coach. Again, we go back and people were really questioning his recruiting chops as a defensive coordinator. I had it on better authority than most people that were making those questions that it was going to be fine. And I don't want to say that Jimbo Fisher put him in a box, but we certainly weren't privy to kind of his overall personality like we saw in the press conference and the introductory ceremony, right? Like a lot of people, you included, I think we're talking about like, man, this guy's really sharp. We didn't get to speak to him very much, so we didn't know it. And that's stuff that's going to come across to recruits and trainers and coaches and parents across the state of Texas. And I do like what Devin Moore said. It was like, no nonsense, but a player's coach. Like, if you're going to do things within the framework of how he wants them done, he'll be great for you. But if you start stepping outside of those lines, there's a standard and there's a culture that must be met. You know, what's the old line about how do you know something's a standard? Whether it be in your household with your kids or in a team setting, a standard, you know something's a standard because when it's not met, it's punished. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So if an expectation is not met or the standard is not met and it's not punished, it's actually not a standard. So, again, all of that stuff that's going to kind of work itself out the more time that he's in the chair. Right now, he's in total scramble mode still, trying to put a staff together, trying to put a recruiting class together, meeting in home with some of the top prospects of some of his commits, and we'll get into that more recruiting specific stuff. But I just couldn't – number one, I can't wrap my brain around what his days look like still right now, and I know he's got some staff now with him here in College Station that will help mitigate some of the responsibilities that he's taken on by himself. But I still can't imagine what from sun up to sundown his phone looks like, the phone conversations he's got to have, the expectations for him to be in certain places at certain times. It's a lot, right? Yeah. So I think we'll really start to see all that hard work come to fruition. We're already seeing it on the coaching side, but also on the recruiting side as we start getting into the weekend and expected official visitors.
Well, can we talk a little bit about his in-home with Ashton Funk and Draylon Miller?
Well, you know, Ashton was last week, and he was the first one. And really, it's kind of funny because knowing Ashton and his dad like I do, they are so low-maintenance people. Like, they don't need anything. And so Mike Elko could have waited for him to be the last one, and they would have been fine. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
They don't
need that.
Yeah, they don't need that. Like, they were coming to A&M. He had already started, like, he already picked out his apartment and signed the paperwork. Like, they were coming. But Mike Elko went in home with him early, and I think it was really wise for him to do that because he knows how bought in Ashton is, and he can help relay the message to everybody else, right? And so talking to Ashton and talking to his dad, you know, after the in-home, they were super impressed, really impressed. Again, like same thing that we talked about with Coach Elko's plan, his vision for the program, how meticulous and organized he was with what he wanted to present to Ashton. And then now, you know, he's got an offensive line coach. Well, that was loud. What kind of tool was that?
I don't know. What's Billy working on?
That was not how.
You don't think it was Billy working on the –
If Billy put a power tool in his hand, he'd have a heart attack.
Me too.
But it was, you know, what I expected or how I expected Ashton to react to Coach Elko's visit is exactly how he reacted.
And then Draylen Miller?
Draylen, I'm working to get a report on, but I do believe that they met last night face-to-face, and I do believe that Draylen has been in conversation and communication with A&M since that visit happened. So there was talk that he was going to go to Ohio State this weekend on an official visit. I'll check in today to see if that is still the plan. Ohio State's a team to watch. It's making a late run there. And it just shows you how good this kid is at football, right? Like, A&M's been battling USC, LSU, Ohio State, Texas trying to get in here late too. So
we're still in it.
And A&M's still in it. But again, nothing changes with Draylen in terms of I feel like he's wanting A&M to give him a reason. And I think, the initial meeting, whenever that takes place with him and Colin Klein, will be very important. And then obviously who the receivers coach is. But Draylen, like, I'm watching the San Francisco 49ers play the other day, and it's like he's Deebo Samuel. Like, it's the same style of runner, the same build. So, like, how creative can you get that guy the ball? And then when you start talking about potential options to get him the ball, lining him up in the backfield, well, look how creative Kansas State's running game was and has been. And Deuce Vaughn is a direct representation of that, and he's made his way into the NFL even as an undersized running back because of his production. A lot of it is because of the production in that Kansas State offense. So I would imagine that Colin Klein will get a very good briefing very early on how much of a priority Draylen Miller is, and go in and present him with the best case scenario for him in the A&M offense and in his new look of offense.
Brian, I need your help here. We got 114 likes on YouTube. If we get to 200, can you provide the odd in the next 10 minutes? By the way, can you provide some value to the show that you weren't planning on giving radio?
Listen, this isn't one of these things where like people are going to be like dance clown. No,
you're not going to do that. All right, so guys, don't unlike.
No, I'm not saying that. But I don't take requests.
Okay.
Not to incentivize people. People should want to be. By the way, I do bring value to this radio.
You
program.
always do, by the way.
Yeah, that toxicity coming from the first hour. I know where that's coming from. The guy that said.
I'm just trying to get to 200 so we can be trending. I'm just trying.
Is that how it goes?
Well, the analytics, it helps. But if you don't want to help the cause, I get it.
Okay, I got it.
Oh, thank you.
If we get the likes to 200 before I'm off the air, David will do the last half hour of the show with his sleeves rolled up.
Done. We only have 15 minutes after Bronny because the show ends at 10:45. But I mean, I'll do this right now. Well, let's go.
Watch your mouth.
I did say it.
No, I know, but the ESL thing that people have been giving you crap about. You just you don't want to muddy the line.
Anyway, we're going to hit a break here as this gets awkward. Milliken Reserve Time, farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got wide open spaces with a mission to build a healthy community around nature. They are dedicated to the conservation of a healthy community, respect for the native landscape and wildlife, 2,600 acres of open space, farms and trails and homes. They connect families to nature and to each other. They certainly have done that. And they want you to know that that's the place you can see all the animals you want to see. Like, they got them all out there, the songbirds, the rabbits, the turtles, the white-tailed deer, you name it. And homeowners at Milliken Reserve sharing a legacy of conservation, which means generation after generation will come back to the same pristine countryside place, an enduring resource and a place to come together to relax and reflect. Go check it out. The neighborhoods out there are beautiful. You'll really, really like them. The creek, the homes on a 10-acre wooded estate that are thoughtful expressions of their owner's vision. You got the hollow, and you've got the meadows. No doubt about that. The meadows are responsive to that natural surrounding. The website is millikenreserve.com. Again, that is millikenreserve.com. All right, it's Recruiting Country here on TexAgs Radio, brought to you by Caprock Health System. Bronny, let's talk a little bit about the reaction to Cushing right now, the O-line coach. I think we are hearing some pretty positive things from the players.
Yeah, players and recruits alike. It seems like it's a stark change from what was here, and he's a very good communicator. Mm-hmm. Talking to some of the commits that he's made contact with, and they were blown away by him and his ability to communicate over the phone. And I think just from the conversations that I've had around town and stuff, he wants to really get a good grasp of what was expected around here last year and what the current group liked and didn't like, and go from there. And it seems like, the initial response from players and recruits alike for Coach Cushing has been overwhelmingly positive. And I haven't gotten – I'm not saying I won't get that same kind of intel on Sean Spencer or any of the other assistants, but this one has been, volunteered to me. It's not me going out, hey, what do you think of this? It's like, hey, I just got off the phone with Coach Cushing, and I'm super pumped about it.
By the way, we've done an entire show, and I don't think I've gone to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center yet.
That's probably because of the person sitting over there.
Yeah, well, Kennedy has a problem with
No,
that.
you haven't come to me all show.
And I haven't said hi to Nick either.
She hurt her back, by the way.
You doing
And
okay,
then
Olin?
magically got it better.
I stood up and my back locked up for a second.
How old are you?
22.
Olin Buchanan at the News and Social Center.
It happens more times than I would like to admit.
I think it's happened on this show once before.
Your back just goes out randomly?
Uh-huh. Thanks to volleyball.
Well, you know what? I think we have one of your best friends in the back that could help you in the gym to really strengthen that core.
That's okay.
And then before you know it, you'll be wearing muscle shirts to the office.
No, that's
and
okay.
And you'll become gym girl.
That's okay.
I don't think I've ever worn a muscle shirt to work.
Not talking about you.
Oh, what are we talking about?
The person transcribing this right now.
Oh, well, good times. Who's transcribing this?
Kay Nagley.
Okay. Kay wore a muscle shirt to work?
She always does.
Does she?
She's ripped.
Yeah, she's jacked. Yeah, in a good way.
Properly jacked.
We're going to get to a question.
It's deadlift day. I'm deadlifting at the gym.
I'm not a fan of deadlifts. I do them, but I don't like them. Anyway, can we talk about the visitor list this weekend?
We can. I'm not going to give away everything.
No, just a little bit. The subscribers. I mean,
you went to Kevin and didn't let her ask any questions.
Well, I'm letting people send questions for her, and we'll come back to her. I just wanted to introduce. Hey, if you got a question, send it now because we're running out of time. Continue.
And David, what's our number at right now?
We're not going to get there. We're at 165.
We have an unmotivated fan base. There's a lot of good stuff happening.
We got 546 people watching right now.
The incentive that I provided was not really that much.
Yeah, nobody wants to see that. That was your fault. But I was thinking maybe you'd do one little, you could do the fake move. Where I wasn't going to do this on radio, but I'm going to do it. You could have done that. You didn't.
You talking about information?
Yeah.
No, you can't pimp me out like that.
Why not? Anyway, can you give us a little bit of the visitor list?
Yeah, I do think they're gonna have a couple of portal visitors, wide receivers, and those have been posted on the site. But there are two of the transfer portal wide receiver offers that have gone out in the last week will be on campus, so you can check TexAgs Premium for those. A lot of the commits are making their way to campus. Anthony Smith, Ashton Funk, Miles O'Neal coming in from New Jersey. We will have that full list up on the site probably tomorrow. I think that we will see Texas A&M coaches continue to get out, and the new ones will probably start getting out on the road this weekend to football games. I expect to see A&M representation tomorrow night at Woodforest Bank Stadium in the Woodlands, where Terry Bussey and Timpson will play Ganado. Mm-hmm. Obviously, a priority. It's a high priority to keep Bussey in the class. So it wouldn't surprise me to see one or multiple A&M coaches at that game, it being just an hour from College Station here. But I do think that we'll see them out on the road at a bunch of these state semifinal games. It's just looking at players, yes, but again, getting their face out there amongst the Texas high school football coaches. But also they'll have to be back in town on Saturday to welcome in a group of visitors. And again, you keep checking the site. We've got these running recruiting threads where we're dropping a lot of information. Hal had a note this morning about one of the A&M commits that's been hearing from another school. So there's a lot of incentive. We use that word again, incentive right now. If you love this stuff and you like information and being kept up to date on A&M recruiting, to subscribe to TexAgs.
Yep, perfectly said. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. Let's go back to Kennedy Cavan at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Give us a question or two.
So Inconvenient Pothole on the YouTube chat asked Bronny, on a scale from 1 to 10, how connected is Klein already with the Texas high school football coaches? I know he's not from here, but I'm sure he's recruited in the state before.
Yeah, that's a question that I will have a better answer for probably a week from now. I mean, the guy just got hired. I know that the response that Billy and I have gotten this morning has basically been because of how he operates his offense. People really like to watch it. The coaches that dive into the X's and O's are fans of the functionality of his offense. And I think that's where the initial reaction is coming from, more so than, hey, this guy's been at my school. He's sat in my office. We've had great conversations. He may have done that, but I don't know that yet.
Cavs?
And then we have Bryce B saying, Bronny reporting from Nederland. Any chance with Kobe Black?
I think that one's headed to Austin. If A&M is able to undo that in that short of time, it'd be one of the bigger recruiting miracles I've seen.
And then, Bronny, let me ask you about the difference, last thing for you, how aggressive they are in the portal, or going to be, I should say, and are already being.
Yeah, already being. And look, I've said this before, Jason and I do not get in the habit of posting portal names before they're in the portal.
Yep.
But we are definitely fielding calls from folks that are saying, hey, this kid's interested in A&M if he goes in. We won't be releasing those names, and we won't be talking more about them until they actually go into the portal. That being said, I do like what A&M has done. Again, it's a clear sign that Mike Elko has an organizational structure of how he wants to attack the portal. And I think he's got people in his recruiting staff that are going to be predominantly watching portal film. And I think he'll have guys on that recruiting staff that'll be predominantly watching high school film. And it'll be interesting to see if they make new high school offers in the class of 2024 over the next couple of weeks and try to get kids in, especially some in-state kids that I think will be under heavy consideration for offers or at least getting evals. But, we'll keep an eye on that. But I love how aggressive they're being because you have to play the portal game.
You have to.
And look, Colin Lacey's a kid that's coming in this weekend as receiver out of South Alabama. He's played 4 years. He was a freshman during that COVID year, so he's getting a fifth year. Hugely, hugely productive. That's a kid from South Alabama that got an offer from a new staff quickly like that. So you're going to tell me they're not doing their homework? And I don't think they're following just trends. The other receiver that's coming in is from Old Dominion. How do you know about a kid about Old Dominion? How do you provide an offer for him that quickly if you haven't done your homework ahead of time?
Sorry, I saw it get to 198. Right, and then it went to 197. Somebody took it away.
They're like, this is getting too close.
This is getting too close.
David's
Yeah,
arms.
we don't want to see that. All right, so sorry. At the end of the segment, we said 200. We didn't get there.
It's 199 now.
Oh, it got to 200, but the segment already ended. So
no, it's not over. We have not gone to commercial. It's only 10:30.
I don't think the people.
You're getting out early. This is a cop out.
10:30, 40, 50. What are you talking about? The segment ended 50 seconds ago.
I thought it was 31.
No, it's 30.
Well, there's some discrepancy there.
I don't know.
Who knows if that clock's right?
Well, that's the right clock. Anyway,
you're muddying the line because you really don't want to do this.
There you go, a little bit.
Because you know it'll get screenshotted and used forever.
God, yeah, you're right. It's already just that little move is. All right, people. Thank you for liking this, not for the reasons you liked it. Anyway, talking Chance McClain and Heritage Films, yourheritagefilm.com. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. They make documentary films about families, family businesses, family ranches, and they're for you guys to watch together. Today is my mom's 83rd birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. I love you. I'll call you after the show. Anyway, we got to do a heritage film we need to do with Mom. We did one with my dad, right? And we all watched it together, 2-hour documentary about his life and meeting my mom and starting the family and escaping Cuba and all the cool stuff that you've heard me talk about before. But watching it together as a family has been, it was just great. It is really like one of those moments that I know my kids are going to remember later on in life. But also, they're going to watch that film later on in life when it's a little bit more impactful and they get a little bit older and they have more questions about, the way our family was formed and whatnot. That's what Heritage Films does. And they also have the Yearflix option, which we've done for our family as well. And that option is phenomenal because it's these 20-minute videos, but they're more benchmark videos, learning about your kid in a different way, in a kind of cool, it's not social media, but it's got that quick vibe to it. It's really nice. And Chance does those videos. We did one with Annalise. You can do it for your freshman year of college, right? You can send a kid to college. You want to learn a little bit about them freshman year to sophomore year to junior year to senior year to when they graduate. It's just awesome. The phone number, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341, or check out the website, yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com. I got to apologize to David Sandhop. Not only is it a short segment, but I also have to apologize because I was trying to get Bronny to give our radio audience a little bit more information than he does. He saves a lot of it for as he should. I was like, all right, but if we get to 200 likes on YouTube, right? Because we were at 110 or something like that. You'll drop some information. He's like, no, but if we get to 200 likes, David's got to do the segment, Nuño, with his sleeves rolled up. So I apologize. We got to 239.
Oh, you got there?
And I'm embarraed, so I'm going to do like a half sleever for like a a few minutes, and then hopefully it falls.
You got to show your assets, my man.
Well, hey now, but let's talk about A&M. Oh, this is so cringy. Let's talk about A&M basketball when it comes to these, not only this week, but really what it looks like over the next couple of weeks. And as you told me during the break, what it looks like for them, just the SEC in general after taking a big hit this past weekend.
Yeah, I mean, this is, we talked about Thanksgiving week being big, and A&M took care of business there. Now, these next 2 weekends, tonight, DePaul, you got to take care of business. I mean, we're not going to talk much about DePaul because they should take care of business.
They should.
They're 19.5-point favorites. Then you have Memphis coming in on Sunday. And the only thing, Memphis has lost a couple of games. That's not a quad 1 anymore, but still it'd be a quality quad 2. Then you have U of H. U of H is like 1 or 2 in the net. I mean, that's like a home run of wins if you get that. And I think the difference for A&M, if you win that U of H game, all of a sudden you're into you have that signature win. You're in that stratosphere of, hey, look, if we have a good conference role here, I mean, a 2 or 3 seeds not out of the question.
Right.
Now, the issue is if you struggle, if you lose to U of H, and let's say they struggle against Memphis for some reason, all of a sudden you're back to where, okay, we've got to put our hopes on our SEC play. We need to boost up. The problem this year is so far the SEC hasn't really – they've lost some games they shouldn't have lost.
Right.
And you got teams like LSU is 164 in the net. They've never been that low. Vanderbilt's 275. We talk about, people talk about Arkansas. They won the Duke game. They've lost some others. Arkansas is 107. Missouri, which we thought is 115.
Right.
So, the key is you don't want to rely on the SEC to bring you up. And then also, you're still pushing for the SEC to do well because our 2 big games are coming up. So it is for a lot of these other teams. Alabama plays 3 top 10 teams in the next 2 weeks. Missouri plays 2 top 20 teams. They play Illinois. Illinois just beat Florida Atlantic last night. So they're going to be on the way up. You've got Kentucky still plays UNC. Arkansas plays OU. OU's undefeated with Porter Moser. So there's a lot of opportunities there. So I know it's not natural, but Aggie fans need to get to where you need to be rooting for these SEC teams in mid-December because it makes a huge difference when it comes to tournament time.
Are you concerned or not where A&M is right now, the way the style of basketball that you are seeing?
Well, I think you can. I'm not completely. I mean, Wade Taylor's not playing like Wade Taylor, and he's the headliner. He's the star attraction. You need to get him playing more efficiently within more production from everybody else. I think he's trying to do too much. Clearly, we have question marks with Tyrese Radford. What's going on there? Jace Carter we saw go out at the end of the last game. So for me, the key is what I've seen throughout this stretch, even though they've won some big games, is that they're really struggling on offense and in moving the ball in the sets. Mm-hmm. Balls get stuck with the ball handler, whether that be Wade Taylor. There are times when Manny Obaseki was running the point where he didn't pass it at all. He dribbled it for 25 seconds and went and drove the lane. We need more ball movement, more activity. That'll come. The teams always kind of start a little slow for Buzz. But that's where I see they still need to get everybody involved and run more sets and get better shots. People talk about, Aggies don't shoot well. They're not shooting well because they're not taking good shots.
Right.
And that's the key.
So how do they take better shots?
Well, like I said, you need to move the ball more. You need to move it around the perimeter. You need to get defenses to shift so your players can come in and get in those the spaces. I think a lot of it now is going to be you now rely on Henry Coleman. You can get him in the post. He's making moves in the post. That's great. That's probably the biggest factor positive factor that's come out of the first week or two. But also, WED and some of these other guys with the ball, instead of trying so hard to get to the rim and finish, every once in a while when they collapse, dish it out to Hefner, dish it out to Carter, dish it out to whoever. Because most of those times when A&M goes on one of those 2 for 12 runs from 3-point, most of those shots are contested with somebody in their face.
Right.
And you just need the offensive set needs to create better shots. That's the way I see it anyway.
Why do you think Buzz's teams take a little while to get going? Even though, by the way, they're going fine. Like they're this is not last year. This is a different feel to it. But why do you think it takes a little bit longer to get gelling?
Well, I mean, he's so unique in how he operates, and for him, he says it. He goes, "Look, I spend while everybody is practicing sets and working on their offense and defense in the summer and early fall. I'm working on team building things. You know, they're out changing a tire at Reed Arena, doing whatever." And he feels that, and it's proven out, is that he would rather do team building up front, build that cohesiveness, and when it comes together, then they're really good in the spring. But of course, this year I think he knew he had a good team, and he said, "Well, maybe I need to change some things up." It's worked to some degree, but I still think that they still need to figure out a way on their offensive sets to create better shots and not hurry their shots.
Let's close out with Solo. He's been such a nice, I don't want to say surprise, because we saw him at the end of last season really take his game up a notch. What have you seen from him that's really impressed you?
Well, I'll just say this, is that in last year, up until the Iowa State game, whenever Solo would have that look in his eye like he's going to shoot a three, you're like going, no. He hit, not only did he hit 3 threes in that Iowa State game, that last one was critical. It was like 2 or 3 minutes to go, and they were up by 5 or 6. And that really kind of sealed the game. And if you can get a guy that has the confidence to take the shot in a critical time and can make it, that's a world of difference. A huge difference between a guy who you can count on to win and a guy who is a contributor and who helps the other teams win. He can be that guy.
Hop, I appreciate you coming in. It's a short one today because of Aggie women's basketball. They're going to get started here, the pregame show right here on The Zone if you're watching or listening on The Zone. Thank you so much for everybody watching and listening. Tomorrow, Stephen McGee, Aaron Torres, John Harris, and I got some other, Logan Lee. I think Logan Lee will be here, and the fan show. That and much, much more. Thank you all so much for being a part of the show today. We're going to make sure that you guys keep it with TexAgs.com for the latest and greatest news. Billy and Bronny are all over it, and Jason Howell as well. We'll see you mañana.